I'm Scott Pantel, CEO of LSI, and today I am fortunate to have Scott Huennekens with us. Scott is a chairman, CEO, entrepreneur, investor, board member, and we are delighted to announce that he will be our keynote speaker at our summit coming up in May, and we're very grateful that he's given us some time here today just to catch up and get current with each other. Scott, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. It's always nice to talk to another Scott.
That's right. That's right. Typically, I would brag about the location of our event being at the Ritz-Carlton in Laguna Niguel, but since you may be in an even better spot there in La Jolla down in San Diego, I won't brag about that, but I'll tell you that if you're ever up for lunch, I'd love to come down your way.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad place to spend COVID.
So Scott, one of the things that before we get into some of the companies that you're working with, one of the things that you and I have briefly talked about and that I just love is you have this signature line in your email, this go, go, go mantra. So what does that mean? What's up with go, go, go?
Yeah, no, it's just been a part of who I am, but it's inherently me as a personality, which is to lean into life and make things happen, be on your front foot. And I've always just found that action creates effect, and if directed properly, can be a positive effect. And so, you know, I've had to explain it to people where I've worked that it's don't, fire and then aim, so to speak, but it's quality speed. So, follow the methodology of plan, do, check, adjust. But just, I've always tried to build cultures at companies that I'm at where it's take action, be bold, make decisions, and that, creates progress. And don't get hung up on having too much of the information when you have enough to make progress, get more information, and continue to go forward. So I've always tried to live by that mantra, and it's always a good reminder every day to sign your emails, go, go, go. Like, what can I do? What can I be doing to go forward?
Take action. I love it. I'm sure it's quite a ride working one of the companies that you're involved in. So I know you wear many hats. I saw an announcement a couple days ago about some new team members at Acutus. So if you could just bring our viewers current, bring us current with Acutus and just anything else that's going on that you'd like us to know about.
Yeah, no, post leaving Verb Surgical with J&J acquiring the robotics digital surgery platform, I decided not to do another CEO role. So I'm involved in a number of public and private companies, both from a board standpoint or chairman of board standpoint, as well as investors. So I'm on 4 public boards, in Vista, which is kind of second biggest dental company in the world, and a lot of exciting things going on there with aligners and digital dentistry. On the board of NuVasive, which has been the leader in minimally invasive spine surgery. Again, robotics, digital, coming in that space and starting to take hold. And then also on ViewRay, which I call Surgery 5.0, which is super exciting with MRI guided radiation oncology. So, where today you've got to go for a prostate surgery and often done with a robot, you can see a future state of Surgery 5.0 where there's no incisions and you're basically doing a number of these surgeries without having to cut the skin and having better outcomes. And then the fourth one is Acutus, and Acutus is an example of really what I'm doing now, which is get involved with a private company where I can spend 20-25% of my time, work with the management team, the investors, bring some of the things to the table, having built companies and taken them public to help the existing team. So Acutus is in the electrophysiology, AFib space, next generation mapping technology, a host of therapeutic catheters for AFib ablations. We did a big series, D round in 2019, went public in 2020, had a phenomenally successful IPO. So executive chairman there, and then involved with 4 private companies where I try and work with management teams I know or investors. Big market opportunities mean big patient benefits, which is why I went into this industry from the beginning, was the psychic returns, the ability to make a difference. So all 4 of those private companies fit that bill, so to speak.
That's great. And I love when I read your LinkedIn profile, we talk about the business success, but you call it out. And it's one of the reasons I love being in this space, is that we're in tech and we're all here to do business. But at the end of the day, if we do it right, we can help patients. And I love it that you always point that out. So Scott, as you've mentioned, you've had a tremendous amount of experience in a multitude of transactions, public markets with Volcano, joint venture with Verb. Now you're with Acutus. Tell us how you see the financial markets playing out, and specifically if you could talk about the shifts between VC, private equity, and talk about SPACs. Tell us a little bit about SPACs and your perspective on how things might play out.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting time. I think it's probably the best time to ever be in medtech, both from the side of this world of medtech 3.0 and digitization that's happening, which is creating all kinds of these opportunities for devices and how they can interface with services. And then on the other side is the availability of everywhere from seed capital, venture capital, all the way through to crossover funds and SPACs and IPOs. There's an abundance of capital right now to pursue these numerous business opportunities. So I've been fortunate enough, in 2019, was the chairman for Envista, which had a $600 million, IPO and has traded up more than 100% in the last year and a half. And then last year is the chairman of Acutus, where we went public. And Acutus is an example of a company with a tremendous amount of potential to be a multi-billion-dollar company, but went public generally a little earlier than would have historically been the case. The old way was he had 50, 60 million in revenue, a lot of predictability for the next quarters, and then you can go public. Things have been able to go public earlier. You see crossover funds that have evolved over the last 5 to 10 years. So, VCs, 20 years ago, back at the Volcano time from the early 2000s, would have taken you all the way through pretty much to being public. Now you'll see the OrbiMeds, Deerfields, Red Miles, Ally Bridges, these larger funds that both invest, pre-public in your last round, and then they're kind of anchors to your IPO offering as well, which is beneficial. And then, you have spectacular expansion of these special purpose blank check companies that are happening now, and whereas SPACs, 2, 3, 4 years ago and back would have been viewed as kind of like, I can say this as a stepchild and a redhead, like your stepchild redhead. And that's just not the case anymore. You would have gone public with these bulge bracket, B of A, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs banks, if you were an A+ class, IPO medtech company. And only people who couldn't kind of get public would go the back door through a SPAC. That has changed now, where SPACs are a very legitimate way to go public, to raise capital, and it creates a lot more strategic options for companies. And being involved with these private companies that are evaluating and working with SPACs, there's a lot more owner or like operator-based SPACs. So not just financial sponsors. The financial sponsors, that's fine, but I think operator-based SPACs, where you've got someone who's done multiple IPOs, who's bringing that SPAC to you in the medtech space, can be highly valuable to a company where the CEO is going public for the first time. So back when I was taking Volcano public, I went out and built a board with guys like Ron Machacaria, who would take St. Jude from 2 billion to 13 billion. You know, or Kieran Gallahue had built ResMed, later he built CareFusion, or Alex Lukianov, who built Nuvasive. These were people who, you know, had done this as public company CEOs, so they helped me see around corners. So those SPACs that have now people like myself or Kieran or Alex, you know, we're all in our post-CEO career. If we did SPACs and we came to these companies, you get the benefits of our experience plus the capital. And then there's some other benefits to the SPAC of, you know, Acutus goes public, it can't go share its projections with investors, and there are limitations. With a SPAC, it's not an IPO, it's a merger. So now you can go talk to the investors, and hopefully there's less of this situation where, you know, your stock trades up 100% on the first day and you left all this dilution on the table. You can go out and have a better sense of that pricing. So it's I think they're a real thing, and they'll be around. There's maybe it's a little overheated right now, and it'll work its way out as to what the right number of them is.
Right. Really interesting. And I had a conversation with Joe Mullings the other day, and we talked about the fact that the strategics have quite a bit of money. We've got SPACs, and he's calling for a shootout. And, you know, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Are we going to see a shootout? What happens to valuations? What are your thoughts in the short term?
Well, I mean, I think you see just the valuation of all assets has gone up. When you have our current credit interest rate situation and an abundance of capital, supply and demand, you know, arguably are a little out of kilter, and that's going to create price escalation for return. So especially then when you look at assets that are growth oriented, you know, there's more of it's more difficult, I think, for strategics, given their dilution parameters, to kind of go earlier, where the market, the IPO market and the SPAC market is going earlier, where companies don't have as much revenue and they have burn. So it might be that some of those M&A things take place a little later in a company's, well, it might be the same point in the cycle. It's just they may have gone public earlier and grown with public company capital for a few years before they were bought by strategics. But the fact of the matter is, strategics are being valued in medtech. Valuations are the highest in my 30-year career as a multiple of revenue. So they're able to pay more than what they've used to as well. They're getting valued more on growth. If you can take a company like Envista, where it was a low single digits grower, and you can make it a high single digits grower, your multiple expansion potentiality is significant. So I think you're seeing people even clean up their portfolios, where they're even looking to spin some things out that are lower growth, so that the remaining business has higher growth and gets multiple expansion, which can make sense if some of those kind of assets aren't getting the proper level of investment in the multinational, whether it's J&J or Medtronic or wherever, and now it can have the focus. So Envista, which maybe was underinvested in within Danaher, spins out. Now we can make the investments in the business. It moves into a high single-digit grower. That gets very interesting. So all of those dynamics, work together, because as those spin-outs happen, there's a lot of private equity going to buy those, but there's also SPACs now become an option to take that spin-out public. So it's good optimization, I think, of capital and focus, because I think a lot of times in these multinationals companies, the divisions don't have all the focus maybe they need and the access to capital. Having worked at Baxter, and I worked at Edwards, we always felt undercapitalized and underfocused. You take Edwards and you spin it out, look at what Edwards has become,
right,
over the last 15 plus years. Would that have happened with inside a multinational? Probably not.
Yeah, that's a really good example. So that's great. So Scott, you and I, when we talked, gosh, it was probably 4 or 5 months ago, maybe even closer to 6 months ago, about having you be our keynote speaker. We were much earlier on in COVID. We got a little time under our belt. And at the time, we had a discussion about your view on how, now's the time to go, and that there were opportunities out there. Has that changed? Has your investment strategy changed? Just kind of fast forward to where we're at right now from where we were 6 months ago. Any surprises or any changes in your approach to both running a company and on the investor side?
So a few things. I think number one, the biggest thing is, you've heard me talk for 5 years about MedTech 3.0, and MedTech 1.0 being, hey, we made devices that did something. 2.0, they got smarter with electronics, computing power, Moore's law, et cetera. And then MedTech 3.0 is devices now can all be connected to each other at an episode of care, but they, which is vertical, and then horizontally over the continuum of care. So if that's a diabetic patient, at an episode of care to connect, sensors, pumps, and the like, or it's, then connecting with your phone and managing that patient chronically over time, or, you pick the disease state where that's happening. MedTech 3.0 is happening, and I think it's accelerated during COVID, where everything from telehealth to the connectivity and ORs to data aggregation is all just accentuated. And so things that we thought may take 5 years are taking 2 years relative to market adoption. So that, I think, has changed a little bit my investment philosophy, or my involvement in pushing companies to maybe that I'm involved in raise more money to go faster, because this market adoption is going to happen faster. So the winner is going to be declared earlier, and you need to be a part of that kind of market development, not a slower figure it out. So that, and that applies, whether you're at Nuvasive, where I'm on the board, and robotics and connectivity and a platform, or Envista with aligners, which have just, blown up what a line, and this company Byte that Dentsply just bought. I mean, people are adopting some of these things faster than we would have earlier assumed.
Are there any new segments that you're looking at? Any new areas that you're in, maybe in your white space, that you're checking out? Anything hot, new that you can comment on, or should we save that for your keynote?
I mean, we can save it, or there's nothing really new. I mean, the big markets and the big opportunities, as it relates to MedTech, continue to be, I think, the same ones, whether it's robotics, or it's digital, or it's diabetes. Electrophysiology is big. There's big categories of sleep that are under penetrated. So there's a lot of big opportunities out there when you talk about democratizing therapies and diagnosis, around the world. Like I said earlier, I think there's never been a more exciting time. And then you get into not only I almost like you could say there's a MedTech 4.0 world coming as you think about biologics and the mixing of devices, with them, where, new things start to become, possible with all these areas of gene therapy and CRISPR and the like. Are there going to be mapping and ablation catheters, 20 years from now, or are we going to have ways to do gene therapy to change the biology accordingly, or grow heart valves in situ or in different ways? There's going to be a transition period that happens. Or I talked about surgery 5.0 being kind of Star Trek-y, where you're laying the scanner and the scanner comes above you and does things that you don't even have to cut the skin, which we're doing today with MRI guided radiation oncology at ViewRay.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating time. And if, the definition of MedTech has changed so much just in the last 3-4 years, it's hard to imagine what we're going to be looking at, in 3-4 years from now. And it's fun to be a part of the ride. So I get the feeling that you're not slowing down, and you got some some more plans.
No, we covered that at the beginning. It's go, go, go.
Let's go, man. It's time to go. So, entrepreneur, investor, board member, where's your favorite place to be? Or is that an unfair question? They're probably all your favorite place to be, but I don't know. When things do wind down.
I'm different because I love, like, what I've created for myself is my ideal habitat, so to speak, where I get to work, at Wonder Medical, where we want to create the world's largest online physician network and communication and information sharing to activate that MedTech 3.0 world. I joined there, we're under 10 employees. Now we're, 30 or 40 employees and growing like crazy. Or Digma, we're in diabetes catheter-based, treatment, like a fractal. And we're in clinical trials. So I love that early stuff, but I also love the later stage in VISTA, 3 billion in revenue, global operations, scale to make a difference. And it's nice to be able to participate in kind of from startup to Acutus, which is commercializing and growing, to, larger, invasive, Invista type of companies as well. So I'm probably a little strange in that I like working or participating in all of those, but I think it gives me an interesting perspective to bring to the table for each, where you can zoom in and zoom out accordingly.
All right, so I'm gonna take the answer as you like being in all those places.
Or either that, or I have a difficulty saying no and choosing. So probably a problem.
All right, so Scott, in 3 short months, we're gonna have 120 plus CEOs of venture funded startups, listening to your keynote and hearing your vision for the future. But if you were if I'm the CEO of a Series A to C startup, any watch outs, any advice, any things that you would be thinking about right now in particular, given the current environment?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's changed. And that the word I just used was change. It's every startup I've done, and most all that I've been involved in, we've ended up doing something different than we started out targeting to do. So my advice is always to have a wide lens, be focused on what you're doing, but have a wide enough lens that if something's not working or something else you can adapt your business model to comes along, then you got to be open to that. And so that often means having the right team that is is adaptable and flexible enough to do some of the things. And on that team are your sources of capital. So your VCs that are supportive of those kind of endeavors, and build that right team of people that can help you achieve those objectives. Look at Volcano, we started out, focused on vulnerable plaque, and very quickly realized that was a very difficult challenge, but we developed the technology for colorizing ultrasound images. And then if we married that with ultrasound, then we could start building a platform. That platform could have multiple apps, and we could have FFR, and we could have these other things. And before you know it, we'd adapted into being the connectivity platform for an interventional cardiology lab. And today, 75% or so of cath labs have Volcano systems, and 75% of the disposables used on them are that. And now that's going to be connected to, a cloud that allows you to aggregate more data, especially within a Philips connectivity solution. And it'll be taken even to the next level of patient and physician benefit. So I would just say, and that means probably having always, especially in today's environment where there's quite a bit of capital available, don't worry so much about perfect rounds of capital, perfect valuations, perfect dilution. Have a little bit of extra capital, because probably my most favorite phrase is there are no bumps in the road. That is the road. And there are going to be bumps in the road. There always are when you are doing startups. And so having the flexibility to have optionality by having the right team and capital to solve for those is critically important. And if you find the right thing, that extra capital just allows you to step on the gas and go faster as well.
That's really good advice. That's great. And if we've learned anything in the last year, it's that you better be ready to, adjust and adapt and take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves. So I think that's really good advice. Thank you, Scott. So again, we're really excited about your presentation. I think everybody in the world and in medtech is excited about the promise of hopefully getting back out in person soon. We're going to make our event that's coming up a hybrid event. So folks, yep, fingers crossed. And, we got the digital element as our backup. And so we're really looking forward to your content. I hope we get to see it in person. If it ends up being digital, so be it. But I want to thank you just for being a part of it, for supporting MedTech. You're a real mogul in our industry. And it's fascinating to hear your experiences and your stories and to take a look at some of the companies that you're working on. Is there anything you'd like to leave our viewers with, or anything you'd like to share before we move on to the next chapter?
Just the same way we started is go, go, go. I mean, it's truly a privilege to get to work in this industry and advance technologies that help patients. So, I went into this industry from the get-go with the understanding, hey, I know I was going to have some bad days, but at the end of the day, I knew that the work I did, the teams I was on, were having a greater benefit and making a difference. So I'd first say thank you for probably all of you who are watching, all of you, what you've done this last year during COVID, I'm sure has been heroic relative to doing what you've done to advance your technologies, your clinical applications. And I would just encourage you to keep doing that, and encourage the people around you to keep doing that within your companies and within the industry, because we are making a big difference.
That's right. It is a special industry we're in. I'm thankful to be a part of it. Grateful and thankful to have you with us here today and to do our keynote. So thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to seeing you. I just spoke with someone that was in Boston, and I told him to stay warm. I don't think I need to tell you that, since you got the beautiful weather down there in San Diego. But Scott, look forward to seeing you in a couple months, and have a great day.
Absolutely. Look forward to it. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, Scott. Take care.
Bye-bye.